Yes, you're welcome. Today we are going to look at cost classification. So, in our previous lecture, we talked about understanding what is cost accounting. So today we need to understand what is a cost classification. So cost classification, cost is divided or it's classified into 5. So 1, by nature of expense, it is classified by nature of expense. And then under the nature of expense, we have the employee cost, we have the direct expense, and then we have the material cost. And then it also divided by transferability to object. Transferability to object, we have the direct cost, and then we have the indirect cost. And then it is also classified by function. So under by function, we have the production, the administration, selling and distribution, and then research and development. And then it's also classified by the nature of behavior. By the nature of behavior, under here we have the fixed cost, the variable cost, and then the semi-variable cost. And then we also divide, it's also classified by the nature of production or the operation processes. So under here we have the job cost, the bunch cost, contract cost, process cost, and then we also have the joint cost. So let's look at this classification one by one. So one, we are going to start by looking at classification by nature of expense. So when we talk by nature of expense, we see that it is according to the nature of expense. Cost elements can be classified into 3 main categories. It is classified into 3 main categories. So one, that is material cost. When we talk about material cost, we see that these are costs of materials used in producing goods or providing services. For example, they include the trade discounts, rebates, we have the taxes, and then we have the duties that are covered. And then, for example, this example of this material cost, we have the raw materials, the components, the spare parts. So the materials that are directly involved in the production processes. So the raw materials, they are involved directly. We have the components, we see that we have the components, and then we have the spare parts. Those are examples of material cost. And then we have the employee cost. Employee cost, this refers to all payments and benefits provided to employees, whether permanent or temporary, for their work in producing goods or services. So the payment, that is the payments, and then the benefits, because when you employ someone, you need to pay at the end of the day for their work or for their effort that they have put, their time. You have to consider. So that one, for example, we have the salaries, the wages, or the bonuses. So salaries, you can decide to pay monthly, wages or every day or weekly, and then also bonuses. Bonuses, if someone works extremely very hard, you give them bonus, either the person has worked overtime. So all that, they are examples of employee cost. So they are under employee cost. And then other expenses, these are all costs other than material and employee costs that are necessary for production or service delivery. For example, we have the utility, the outsourced services, the job processing charges. These ones are all examples of other expenses. So let's look at the classification by transferability to a cost object. So we see that cost can also be categorized based on how easy they can be traced to a specific cost objective, how easily they can be traced. For example, a product or a service or a department. So one, we have the direct cost. We talk about direct cost. We see that a cost is called A cost is called a direct when it can be clearly and economically linked to a specific cost object. So for example, we have the direct material cost. Direct material cost, we see that these are materials that can be directly and visibly assigned to a product or a service. And then what we call direct employee cost. Direct employee cost, these are employee costs that can be directly associated to a product or a service. And then we have what we call direct expenses. Direct expenses, these are other costs excluding exclude direct materials and employee costs that can be directly assigned to a specific cost product. So it can be directly assigned to a specific cost or product. So number 2, we have indirect cost. It can be classified by example. We have indirect cost. So when we talk of indirect cost, we say that if a cost cannot be directly assigned to a single cost objective in an economic manner, it is treated as indirect cost. So these ones can include indirect material cost. Indirect material cost, we see that these are materials used across multi-cost objectives. So you can use them multi, it is multi-purpose, it's most-cost object, or directly or not directly assigned to any one product or service. It is not directly assigned to any, or it cannot directly be assigned to a particular product or service. We have also indirect employee cost. These are employee costs that support multiple activities and cannot be directly linked to a single output. So these are employees that they support all the department. They cannot be assigned to a specific activity, that this is your role, this is specifically the activity that you're doing. No. So we also have indirect expenses. So indirect expenses is general expenses not directly attributed to any specific cost objective. So those are some of the examples of indirect cost. And then we see that we have classification by function. When we talk about classification by function, we say these costs can also be grouped based on the function they serve within an organization, what they serve within an organization. So these functional categories, they may include, we have the production cost. So when we talk about the production cost, it relates to the manufacturing, it's related to manufacturing or creating goods and services. That's production cost, manufacturing or creating goods and services. So we also have the administration cost. When we talk about administration cost, it is incurred in a general management and support function of the business. So in managing, general management of the business or the support functions of the business, people who manages this business, and what involved when managing the business or when supporting these functions of the business. And then we have selling cost. Selling cost, it is related to marketing and sales activities aimed to promotion and selling products or services. So in every business, we have what we call the market. You have to market your product. So every cost that is relating to marketing or selling in selling process, all those are we categorize them under selling cost. Or the promotion that you do, the marketing, advertising, all this fall under selling cost. And then we have what we call distribution cost. In distribution cost, it is incurred in delivering goods or services to customers. When you're delivering these goods to the customers or the services to the customers, the cost that you incur, it is what we call distribution. It is fall under distribution cost. And then we have what we call research cost. Research cost, it is related to investigating and developing new knowledge or techniques. If you want to develop new knowledge or techniques, you do a research. So the cost that you incur in researching, it is fall under research cost. And then we have development cost. Development cost, it is incurred in applying research findings to create new or improve product. If you want to create new, if you want to find out, to research, to find out, to create a new or improve on the product, the process or the service of the goods that you're providing or the products, you need to improve on your products or to come up with a new product. That one, it is under development cost. So that is distribution by function. And then let's look at distribution by behavior. Distribution by behavior, you see that these classifications look at the cost respond to changes in level of business activity or output. So these costs can also be categorized as fixed costs, variable costs, and then semi-variable costs. So let's look at them one by one. You see we have variable costs. These variable costs, these are the costs that changes with the level of activity. So when they change with the level of activity, for example, we have the direct materials and direct labor. They change with the level of activity. If the level of activity is high, it means that the cost will also increase. So if it is low, the level of activities are not much, it will also be, the cost will also be low. And then we have what we call fixed costs. Fixed costs, we see that fixed costs, these are the costs that remain constant regardless of the level of activities. It's regardless of the level of activities. For example, the rent, depreciation, or the salaries. So if you put someone in the employment, for example, you employ the employees to do a certain to the employees in your business. It doesn't matter whether your business is making a lot of profit. The money that you've agreed, the contract, the money that you've agreed in the paying scale. For example, you tell the person when signing that contract that we are going to be paying you 200 USD. It means by the end of the month, even if the business has not generated that money, you have to pay for them. You have to pay them. It doesn't matter whether the business has made profit or not. And then when we look at rent, it doesn't matter. As long as you have rented a space, you have to pay. By the end of the month, they're counting the money that we have agreed on paying me 500 USD, $500. And then by the end of the month, your business has made loss. You cannot explain to the landlord that, please, I'm not paying you because my business is not working. No, that one, it remains constant. So fixed, it remains constant regardless of the level of activities. It doesn't matter. So also we have the depreciation. We have assets that depreciate but the machines, they depreciate. So it doesn't matter. And then we have what you call semi-variable costs. So these are the costs that have both the fixed and variable components. They remain fixed up to a certain activity level and then vary. For example, we have the utility bills with the fixed base fee plus usage charges. So for them, they are both fixed and variable. They can remain fixed up to a certain activity level and then also they vary. So that was classification. We're looking at classification by behavior of the cost, and then let's look at classification by nature of production or operation process. This cost can also be classified based on the type of production or the service process involved. The service process involved. So these are known as the operational cost, which refer to the cost of a specific operation required in producing required in producing goods or providing services. So the let's look at the types. The types, we have a job cost. A job cost. When we talk about job cost, it's the cost that is related to a specific individual job or order. For example, we have the custom furniture made to order. The custom furniture made to order. And then we also have the bunch cost. The bunch cost, these are the cost of producing a group of identical items. The items that are identical, or the bunch, it can be, or the group of producing, the cost when incurred when producing. For example, when you're printing 50 copies of a brochure, so they are all the same, right? It's a group of identical, or you want to produce the same brochures, but you're producing 50 copies. So you add the total cost of that is what we call the bunch cost. And then also we have contract cost. Contract cost related to a large scale or long-term contracts, typically in construction or engineering. So when you're making a construction, for example, you can make a contract with an engineer, and then you say, finish this by the end of this, I'm giving you this. So that one, it is like building a bridge or a road. You give a certain amount of money in making sure that that thing is finished by the end of the day. So that is we call contract cost. And then we have what we call process cost. Process cost, it is the cost associated with the continuous production process where units are indistinguishable. For example, we have the manufacturing cement, we have the sugar, or we have the chemical. So it's the process, continuous things that you do, you keep on doing continuously, production process. And then we have what we call joint cost. Joint cost here, it is the cost of a shared resources used to simultaneously produce two or more product or service. For example, we have the processing crude oil that yield petrol, diesel, and then kerosene. Those are the examples of a joint cost. And then let's look at the cost accounting techniques. We have the job costing. This job costing, it tracks the cost of individual jobs or the product. And then we have the process costing. This process costing, it tracks the cost of all continuous production processes. The continuous production processes. The process that it's continuously, you keep on doing it. And then we have the activity-based costing. It allocates the cost to activity rather than product or department. It allocates to activity, not the product or the department. And then we have what we call standard costing. It compares the actual cost to predetermined standard cost to identify variances. So here we need to identify variances. So we have come to an end of this lesson. Have a great day.